So in case any of you have never taken apart your dash before, I'll try to make this quick. It's pretty simple, straightforward. This, if you, yeah, I kind of already took it off. If you grab the bottom of this and you on each side here and on this side with two hands, and you pull it out a little bit, it'll pop out. It's just clipped in. And then what you can do is grab your key, put the shifter in neutral, so it makes it easier to take this out.
I'm Taylor, and I just wanted to take a moment though to appreciate.
Okay, so after you got this out, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and that'll be in order to take out this whole big surrounding piece. And before we take that out though, I'm gonna take out the kick panel. Usually there's 3 screws on the bottom. I have only got 1, and then there's a metal kick plate behind this plastic one, but I've already removed mine in the past. So I'm gonna take that off real quick. All right, so here's a cool little tip. See this button here? This button controls this kind of push and pull out from not coming out all the way. So if I pull this out all the way and I stick my hand under here and I press this button, press and hold while with the other hand pulling this out, this will come out all the way. It'll make it much easier to take off this big surrounding piece. Oh, and I might mention that before you take your gauge cluster out, before you unplug it, you should go unplug your battery, take the negative terminal off. Together correctly, this thing will be in there, screwed into the headlight switch. So all you gotta do is take a flathead. All I used was this guy. You take a flathead and it unscrews. You can unscrew it out of the headlight switch. And then you take off the 2 screws that are down here. Actually, that'll come later. Next is gonna be, I'm gonna pop this up a little bit. Just kind of get it out of the way, should be fine. I'm gonna take off 1, 2, there should be 4 screws holding in the gauge cluster. And 4, missing one, but whatever. So once you take those screws out, kind of just use 2 hands, 1 on each side, and gently wiggle and pull on it. And the only thing holding it in at that point are the 2 plugs in the back. This is what it should look like. Those are the plugs for the gauge cluster. They just kind of clip in here, so if you use a flathead and stick it right in here, kind of pry it out. It's a little tricky with one hand, but yeah, just pry them out. And then this backing piece has 1, 2, 3, and then 2 down here on each side. So it's a total of 7 screws that hold in that backing piece. This is what your gauge cluster looks like. If you ever wanted to replace the bulbs in the back of it, well, they go into the back side, so this would be a good time to do that, or that would be how. So here's the headlight switch. I need to cut all these wires off. Turn signal relay right here. All I gotta do is pull it out, just kind of wiggle it. But it's also clipped in right there, the plug for the relay, which is attached to the back of the headlight harness. So I'm gonna try to pull that out too to see if I can't pull this out a little bit more. I'm going to cut from this point, or at least behind this point, because this connection is what's giving me all of my problems. I'm almost certain. So I'm gonna probably snip it right about here and splice the new ones on there. The new pigtail is color coded, which is awesome. So it seems like it should match up with all the factory colors for the most part. But you know, if you are unsure, just take a photo, and once you start connecting the new ones, just go all based off the photo. This is what you call a shitty connection, and that's what happens when you let friends work on your shit. All right, I've got 3 wires done so far. I'm finally making use of this wire connecting little helper that I purchased a little while back. These connectors are pretty awesome. You just heat them up, and that metal right in the center, and the blue, the 2 blues on the outside and the metal in the middle, once you get them hot enough, they just kind of like burst a little inside and they melt. The blue is like a watertight seal, and the metal in the middle is the solder that, you know, once you get it hot enough, it melts onto the copper wires. So it's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna get the rest of it done and see you guys in a second. So I start this off on low, just to kind of pre-melt it. And then see it starts shrinking down, and I'll switch to high. Right there, the solder bubble just burst. And you can see the red bubbles just popped as well. That's pretty much it. So this is pretty soft. Obviously it's hot, but it's pretty soft once you finish heating it up. So I tried to pull one away and it almost came out because it's so soft since you just melted it. So let it sit there for a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, kind of let it cool off and harden, and before you start moving the wires, and that way it doesn't come apart. But once it dries, these are solid. They're super solid. These ain't coming out. All the wires, I put some tape around it just to kind of hold the wires together, and so I can just kind of fold them up and push them back in there, that however I need to push them back in order to get the headlight switch in position. So I think next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and take off the cover for the steering column. I need to replace this cable here. This is for the steering column tilt, and it goes right into there. If you can see that, kind of hooks into there. So that cable is what I'll be replacing. Seems pretty easy to kind of turn it on its side and pull it out of there. And this is the new one. In order to remove this cover, there's a few screws here on the bottom, and I think they're all Phillips. So there's 1, 2, 3. Not sure if that might be one. I think it's just 3. 1, 2, and 3. This tilt column cable is already broken, so I just swing it out, pull it up, and that's it. The new one will go back in. I just took out the old piece, which is gonna end up right inside there. But check this out. If you take a flathead screwdriver, this T-fitting needs to come inside here. The old one, all I did was stick the screwdriver in here, and I opened this. Then you just close it up again. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the screwdriver, try to close it back up. So this bottom half of that little ring there that I was opening and closing with the screwdriver, the top part of it was pretty open for this new part, because that T on this new part is a little smaller than the factory one. So I took the screwdriver, stuck it up in here, and I just pried on this so that I could close that top ring so that it would fit this new one better. And then I closed the bottom one back up. Just kind of push on it. They're pretty soft and easy to bend. Okay. This is steel cable, so kind of bend it wherever you need it to go. All right. Now let's get it in on the top end here. All right, there it is. And that's it. I now have a functioning tilt lever again. Okay, next up is gonna be replacing the turn signal switch. So it looks like it has this Torx bit here. It's got a plug or two on the back. So I'm gonna take out this screw. Okay, so this is a T20. And I was looking at the new part, and this is the only screw hole that I found on the new plug. But it seems to have two plastic pins on the bottom side that help hold it in place. And it's only secured by this one Torx screw. All right, so it seems as though you've got to take out both of these T20 screws because there's this cover plate on top. It's holding down the whole top of the turn signal switch on this side, but it extends over to this side as well. It's all one piece. So I'm gonna take out this screw. So once you take out both of these T20 screws at the top, I just made sure this switch was pushed towards driver's side. And I'm just gonna pull up this cover. Switch just slides out. And this plug on the back seems to have a clip here and a clip on the bottom, so I'm gonna get that off. All right, so the plug came out pretty easily. Now, this little tab that's coming out of here, oh, it's broken. Yeah, so that's broken. That would explain why when I try to turn this blinker, see how it doesn't really, it moves a little bit, but that's not the full function. Check out the new one. There's a click to it. That's the full function. That would be left blinker, no blinker, and a right blinker. So my old one broke, so I'm glad I ordered this to put it in. Okay, so the new switch is in. Put the plugs in, plug them back in. Just gonna put it back on. And that's it. We'll put the screws back in. We'll get the column cover pieces put back on. It was only those 3 screws on the bottom. There's 2 on the front side and 1 towards the back. And then everything else is just putting it back on in reverse order. Those are all the new pieces I have. The only other new piece left is that backing piece. So I'll show you how this gets kind of like bolted up onto it. This piece is gonna get bolted into here, and the headlight switch will sit right behind this. And this little piece comes in from the front side, and it will screw into the switch where it's threaded. So it basically just it sandwiches this backing plate. And see how it's not a perfect circle? It has that little notch. That's because the headlight switch has that little tab there. And that little tab fits into the little notch. So once it gets screwed into place, so it can't rotate or pivot or wiggle around. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw that in and get the gauge cluster back in and start getting everything put back together. That screw from the front side, you can kind of see that metal tab sticking in through that hole, and you can see from the back side there. So it just gets, sandwiched up into there, and this is solid on this part, on this backing piece. So the problem I was having before was with the little handle thing from the switch. I'd pull it and then I'd feel like the whole thing wiggling around because that hole was broken. So it should be a lot better now. And this wire down here is the wire that had that bad connection that I had showed you guys earlier. It would also, it would pull itself out of the switch. It wasn't staying clipped in. That was from a job I had an old friend trying to install an alarm system, and he's like, oh, I could do it. And yeah, well, look what, now I have to fix this shit years later. right there. That's it. That's the relay. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how this works. All right, so just to show you guys how this works, just stick it in, it clicks one more time, and you gotta give it a little more of a push. All right, I got it. So when you push this back in, it clicks twice, and then you gotta really like push it again hard. So I'm gonna put the big cover plate on, put everything back, you know, the gauge cluster and then everything else. Once I get it all back in, then I can put this back in and click it in all the way. Piece back on, come in here, stick this in. We got click 1, 2, and then push real hard for 3. And then it won't come out again unless you stick your hand back there and push that button. And that's it. The new headlight switch is in, the turn signal is in, the cable for this steering column tilt is replaced. What else did we do? I think that was it. Splicing in the cables for the headlight switch was the biggest thing. Put the new backing plate in. Now this is rock solid. I'm gonna go reconnect the battery and just test out the headlight switch. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, you can feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you can also hit me up on Instagram at jc.xj.